Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
Day 3 of our literature unit, guys, which means, as we always do, we're going to really talk about the major themes that you'll find in this novel, The Hate You Give by our author, Angie Thomas.
Okay, so today we're actually talking about the major themes and ideas in our featured novel for this month, The Hate You Give. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's find out what this is all about. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now.
The major themes in The Hate You Give are dueling identities, stereotypes of and police brutality against Black people, and the cycle of poverty and crime. Star is stuck between the poor Black neighborhood that is her home and the rich white school where she's a student. She makes a conscious effort to change her speech and behavior in both situations to fit in as well as possible. This creates a sense of internal conflict. But Star begins to accept both sides of herself to advocate for Khalil in her two worlds. Police brutality is so widespread in Star's neighborhood that knowing how to behave correctly around police officers can mean the difference between life and death. Khalil is killed because he doesn't answer the police officer respectfully and keep his hands visible at all times. As is often the case when unarmed Black people are killed by police, the media presents Khalil as a drug dealer to justify the police officer's actions, as if Khalil were on trial for his own murder. Star points out, though, that selling drugs shouldn't result in a death sentence under U.S. law. The reason many people in Garden Heights turn to gangs and drug dealing is to gain protection from rival gangs and to earn money to escape from poverty. For some of Star's neighbors and extended family, this is the only way to survive. This cycle of poverty and crime is largely due to a lack of resources, such as education and well-paid legitimate jobs. Star has an opportunity to get out of Garden Heights because of her schooling, and works toward helping others break the cycle of poverty with her activism.
Okay, so as you know, this is day 3 of our literature unit for the month of December. Hope you had a nice Christmas there. And we're talking about racial injustice and police brutality in our featured novel, The Hate You Give. And again, we're talking about the major themes and ideas. So the major themes in The Hate You Give are dueling identities, stereotypes of and police brutality against Black people, and the cycle of poverty and crime. So a theme, of course, is an idea, a general idea of something. You could talk about theme parks, for example. Like, what's that theme park out in Taoyuan called? I can't remember. Basian Leyuan. That's a theme park. I don't know what it's called in English, but like Disneyland is a theme park. Theme there is being used as an adjective, but here theme is a noun. It just talks about the subject of something, the subject of a speech, of a book, or whatever.
Yeah, you could talk about, the major ideas in The Hate You Give, the themes, dueling identities, where you have actually two identities inside the same person. She's trying to fit in when she's home and in her neighborhood of Garden Heights, but she also really wants to fit in with the students she goes to school with, and they're mostly upper-class whites. So it's kind of hard. She feels stuck between the poor Black neighborhood that's her home and the rich white school where she's a student. Sometimes, you just can't please everybody. And if she shows up at her neighborhood and is speaking, in more of an educated way, then her neighbors will make fun of her and probably hate her for that. So she's just trying, to find a place where she fits in and can get along with people. It's kind of a tough situation. Stereotypes. When we talk about stereotypes, it's usually the the obvious definitions of certain sorts of people. For example, here's one. All women are bad drivers, which isn't really true. I'm a good driver. I do have a sister that's terrible.
Okay.
It really does. That stereotype fits her perfectly, but not me. So some stereotypes just don't fit everybody. That's the thing. But the reason we have stereotypes is there were enough of that type of characteristic that made those stereotypes stick.
Yeah, I've never believed the stereotype of women as bad drivers. My mother and my sister were both good drivers.
Oh, good.
But some people do have that stereotype.
Yeah, it's dumb.
People in Taiwan might have stereotypes of foreigners, for example, or white people have stereotypes of Chinese people or of black people, etc., etc. It's all around us, but she's talking about stereotypes of black people. So the of here is modifying black people. Stereotypes of black people, ideas that you have about black people, the way they behave, their culture, their music and stuff like that. You might have some fixed ideas about them that are probably not true. You need to talk to black people to find out what they're really like.
Don't base your judgment of a whole race or culture on one person or a couple of people. You have to get to know people individually before you can say anything about anyone. Yeah, stereotypes, kind of crazy. I wanted to mention this grammar pattern here of black people and police brutality against black people. You have to remember, as Tom said, there's a space there. There's no of and. That doesn't make sense, but it goes with stereotypes of black people and police brutality against black people.
Indeed, so that's what the ideas are. Dueling identities, stereotypes of black people, police brutality against black people, and the cycle of poverty and crime. If you're poor, of course, you probably turn to crime, and that sends you to jail. It's a vicious cycle. It's hard to break free of that cycle. And Star is stuck between the poor black neighborhood that is her home and the rich white school where she's a student. So these are different cultures here. Her home in her black neighborhood is what she's used to. It's what she grew up with. She has her own expectations of her family and the way they interact with each other. But when she goes to the white school, there's a whole new set of rules, and she has to play by those rules there, or it's going to be difficult for her because she's kind of an outsider there. She doesn't feel like she belongs there. She kind of feels out of place, as we talked about in the first day.
Yeah, those rules that Tom mentioned are unwritten. They're not real rules. The kind of expectations that a social group will have, how you should behave, how you should act, how you should look, how you should sound. All of those things are kind of unwritten rules. And she's just trying to fit in. That's all she's trying to do. She makes a conscious or it's a conscious effort means she does it with purpose. She means to do what she's doing instead of unconscious, which means you don't realize you're doing something. It just happens kind of naturally. But here she's actually making the decision to change her speech and behavior in both situations to fit in as well as possible. I'm sure there are lots of slang phrases in her neighborhood that aren't known or used in her Williamson prep school, which is very upper class. And so she just tries to remember, oh, I should say this here and I should do this in this situation, which can make you kind of go crazy, really, if you have to keep switching who you are and changing your identity.
Yeah, so that's dueling identities there, a struggle of her two identities, and this creates a sense of internal conflict. Internal just means inside your body, inside your mind, so she's having this conflict with herself, basically. And here it says, but Star begins to accept both sides of herself to advocate for Khalil in her two worlds. So she has to accept both of these ideas here, that she's, basically two people in one. She does not have a split personality, but she knows how to basically survive in each different situation. So she accepts both those sides of herself, and she wants to advocate for Khalil. Now here, be careful with this word advocate, because it's a verb here.
Yeah.
That just means you try try to promote someone else or do things in their favor to make them at an advantage or something like that. If you're a person who does that, you are an advocate. An advocate advocates things. So there's a slight difference in pronunciation there.
It's similar to the verb graduate, and the person who actually graduates, which is the verb, is called the graduate. Sorry about that. It's kind of tricky, but yeah, this particular word will look the same but be pronounced differently. Advocate, verb, advocate, noun, the person. So moving on to the next paragraph, police brutality is so widespread in Starr's neighborhood that knowing how to behave correctly around cops or police officers can mean the difference between life and death. If you move wrong, you say the wrong thing, if it looks like you're reaching for a gun or a knife or whatever, they have the ability and they have the right, actually, to defend themselves. So you might end up dead when you were simply maybe putting your hand in your pocket to pull out your ID. You have to know how to behave correctly. So unless the police officers in that neighborhood are well familiar with you, then you'll be fine. But yeah, you have to behave a certain way. Behave means your actions. We talk about behave a lot when we discuss kids, and they're not very well behaved. It's hard for kids to sit still, so that's why we don't often take them to concerts, classical music, where you have to be quiet. Kids get very antsy, which just means they move back and forth. So to behave just means your actions. If you're on your best behavior, that's a phrase we use. It just means you're behaving the best you've ever behaved because it's important.
So, the police can be dangerous in your neighborhood here, so you have to know how to act, how to behave around police officers so you don't get arrested or you don't get beat up or even killed. Because, it can mean the difference between life and death. So you got to know these rules if the police are around all the time. And Khalil is killed because he doesn't answer the police officer respectfully. And he doesn't keep his hands visible at all times. So that is an example of knowing the difference between life and death there, meaning the difference between life and death. So he didn't answer the police officer respectfully. The police officer thought, you're supposed to call me sir or officer, and you didn't do it. So, I'm going to make you pay for that. So respectfully means that you recognize someone else's position over you usually. So, of course, if you're talking to your boss at the company, you need to speak respectfully to them. If you speak too casually, you might get fired.
I don't know about that, but yeah, you need to be respectful. It might affect whether you get a promotion or a raise. So yeah, try to be respectful to those who are above you, have power over you. I would say that this is important to remember this word for our parents, to speak respectfully to our parents. Well, before we move on and continue talking about some of the themes, it's probably about time for us to take a break. So we're going to listen respectfully to our Chinese teacher.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 我们今天要继续来欣赏这个文学作品 The Hate You Give。 好，我们提到了这个故事的内容，我们提到了作者。那我们来谈谈这本书这个故事它主题是什么？提到它的 themes， 从大标题就可以看得出来，他谈 racial injustice， 他谈 police brutality。 的确，有所谓的种族不公不义的事情，还有就是警察的暴力。所以我们说它的主题这边一开始就告诉大家有几个呢？有3个。第一个 dueling identities， 这边谈的是他本身冲突的身份。好，接下来第2个主题呢，那就是谈到黑人对黑人的这种刻板印象，还有警察的暴行，还有这种贫穷犯罪的循环。好，这是第3个。换句话说，我们在前面提到故事的内容的时候，大概大家都可以体会得出来。的确， 首先我们就谈到他身份上的冲突，因为他在家里那可是一个贫穷的社区，黑人的社区，他在学校又是一个有钱的白人的地方的学校，所以在这两个拉扯之间，他必须要改变他的方式，然后他必须要尽可能在这两者之中得到一种平衡。所以这也就是我们一开始说的第一个主题 Dueling Identities。不过后来的确他慢慢的接受这两个面向，然后呢他也知道他如何用他的方式来声援他的朋友。好，我们继续往下看，下面呢就谈第二个主题，这个第二个 theme 就是提到了 police brutality。 我们知道这个字 brutal 代表的就是很残暴的，所以 brutality 讲的这边是指警察的暴行。那在他住的这个社区很普遍，以至于说你知道如果有警察来了，你该怎么做是比较正确的，因为这可是生死之间的差距。提到他的朋友他被杀，最主要的原因就是因为他不知道原来警察在问你的时候，你不能够说手想摆哪里就摆哪里，而且你的态度是要尊重警察，所以也就是因为这样，他当然在当时的情况之下，他就被枪击了。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back. Again, we're talking about some of the themes and ideas in The Hate U Give. We've got dueling identities, stereotypes of black people, police brutality against black people, poverty and crime. And, of course, we did talk about the main character here kind of having to go between two different worlds here. She needs to behave herself around the police. Otherwise, it could mean the difference between life and death. And she also needs to behave a certain way when she goes to this pretty much all-white school. It's a prep school, so you better behave yourself if you're going to a school like that, or they might just kick you out.
Right. So it says here, as is often the case when unarmed black people are killed by police, the media makes Khalil look like the bad guy. Oh, he's a drug dealer. And this somehow justifies or gives an excuse for why the police officer did what he did, which is to take out his gun and shoot Khalil. It's as if Khalil were on trial for his own murder, that he's somehow responsible. This happens in rape trials in court. They'll often make it look like the girl was asking to be raped instead of the guy just being a creep and horrible. So
blaming the victim, basically.
It's victim blaming, yeah. Starr points out, though, in her book that selling drugs shouldn't result in a death sentence under U.S. law. Yeah, especially just selling a smaller amount isn't seen as, a crime that you get put away for life, or even you get the death penalty, which is even more severe.
Right, and of course he was shot not because he was trying to sell drugs there, but because he was reaching for something and the police officer thought it was a gun or something. And Starr points out, though, that selling drugs shouldn't result in a death sentence under U.S. law. So, of course, the media is trying to say that, hey, the police officer was justified to shoot this guy because he is a drug dealer. But Starr here in the novel points out, hey, selling drugs does not merit the death penalty. People don't really get shot for selling drugs. They do in Malaysia or Singapore or places like that. But in the U.S., you're not supposed to get the death sentence or the death penalty for selling drugs. Maybe some people think you should, but the way it is now, no, you just should go to jail for selling drugs.
So the reason many people in Garden Heights, that's where our protagonist actually grew up, Garden Heights Starr. A lot of these folks turn to gangs and drug dealing because they need to get protection or gain protection from rival gangs and earn money to escape poverty. Here's the problem in these areas that are really filled with a lot of gun violence. They're usually a couple of gangs, and if you join one gang, they will protect you against the other gang. But in order to join the gang, you usually have to do something bad. So a lot of the mothers in these just really poor and violent neighborhoods try to protect their kids by not letting them join any gang, which is also quite dangerous. But this is why they join gangs. It's a way to protect them against the other gang members and their families, too. Also, if you're selling drugs, it's a way to earn money. And in these really violent neighborhoods, there aren't a lot of businesses that want to go there because, there's a lot of shootings. It might get shot accidentally, or someone might light their store on fire, like we're going to find out in a minute. So there's not a lot of commerce going on in these areas either. So selling drugs is about the only way to make money.
Yep, so you have to turn to a life of crime. You have to turn to a gang, join the gang, and you have to start selling drugs and stuff like that to be protected and to escape from poverty. Unfortunately, this is true for some people in the world. It's hard for me to imagine, though, because I'm from a small town and
safe.
I never heard about gangs or anything like that. Some people got into fistfights or something in bars or stuff like that. But
That's different.
Never these big gang wars over turf and selling cocaine and stuff like that. That was stuff that happened in New York.
Chicago.
Chicago, yeah, hundreds of miles away from where I was growing up. But unfortunately, that's not the case for our novel here, for the woman in the novel. What's her name here? Khalil? Star, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, Khalil's the guy.
I'm getting the names mixed up here. But in any case here, some people have to turn to gangs and to violence just out of necessity. So for some of Star's neighbors and extended family, this is the only way to survive. So your extended family would go beyond just your brothers and sisters, but it would also be your cousins or maybe your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, etc.
Yeah, which is important. Just a couple months ago, there was a story of a kid. He was 9 years old. He wasn't involved in the gangs, but his dad was. And do you know what? The gangs took that little boy and shot him in the head.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's some bad things going on in these neighborhoods. So, yeah, sometimes that's the only way they feel like they can escape from poverty is actually getting involved with more crime. This is a cycle, which means if your family's in it and you grow up with it, oftentimes the next generation is still in that same cycle of poverty. The only way to break out is education and trying to get yourself educated so you can go and attend college, get a degree, and then go and get a good job. So this cycle of crime and poverty is largely due to a lack of resources, such as education and well-paid, legitimate jobs. A lot of the teachers that teach in the schools in that area spend most of their time on bad behavior. So the kids are graduating not being able to read very well or do very well with math, which is the opposite here. Well, Star has the opportunity, bless her heart, to get out of Garden Heights because of her schooling. She's in a good school that when she graduates, she'll be able to apply to really great colleges. And she has the opportunity to work towards helping others break that cycle of poverty with her activism, with her support. So, yeah, hopefully this girl continues to do well. Of course, this is a fictional character, but we know Angie Thomas is doing this for her own community.
Yeah, this is a fictitious story, of course, but we know very well that this is true for lots of people in African American neighborhoods all over the United States or for whatever people in whatever part of the world. Yeah, it's very difficult to break the cycle of poverty and crime and stuff like that. So, yes, hopefully people will be inspired by this novel and they'll make a change in their lives and lift themselves out of poverty and get that violence away from them.
Change their futures forever, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody can live happy lives and you don't have to worry about someone in your family getting killed or starving to death or whatever. So, yeah, it's very inspirational. Hey, I think I'd like to read this novel myself. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
好，我们继续来看下面呢，这边就说到，其实说到这个啊，那可是当时常见常有的事呢。As is often the case。 好，这个片语我们常常拿来用。那我们要知道，你呢用这个开头的 as， 其实如果要谈文法，这个 as 就如同它是一种准关代的用法。那说了好像有一点，好像什么叫准关代？但基本上，它就是有取代一个后面可能提到的状况，而后面这个状况其实就如同大家所常见的一般。好，所以它因为有取代后面描述的事情，所以有像关系代名词的用法，但是它又不是关系代名词，很明显的它没有摆在它取代的那一段话的后面，对不对？而且它语义上就是等于正如同就如同，所以我们在英文上说它叫做准关代。不过没关系，我们把它当作片语来背。As is often the case， 就像我们如同大家常常见的一样。那当然指的就是后面这件事，也就是说，如果你没有武器的黑人被警方杀死，然后媒体呢就会把他们说的好像就是他们是坏蛋，该死一样。好，那这边一样的提到了他们媒体这么做，当然我们也知道这也就是故事里面的重点，因为我们的主角星儿 Star 他说，尽管这样，就算他是有贩毒，可是贩毒不表示你就要判他死刑，就该把他枪毙啊。 OK， 这也就是所有不公不义认为在这个整个事件里面 Star 他必须要指出来，而且他必须声援他的朋友的地方。好，接下来我们再往下，最后呢这边就说到了还有一个第三个重点，刚刚说了三个 theme 里面，第三个 theme 其实也就是说贫穷与罪恶的循环。我们晓得在这个黑人社区为什么会参加帮派，为什么会有毒品交易，当然你就是为了要从帮派里面获得保护啊，然后你用贩毒的方式可以赚钱不就是可以改变贫穷吗？可是结果没有，这里说起来就像一个恶性循环，越贫穷就越会去贩毒，越贩毒越犯罪，然后就制造了更多的问题。所以贫穷与犯罪这样的循环，其实也就是其实整个黑人住的这个社区里常常是缺乏资源。那什么叫资源？就像这边说的，资源就是指教育还有高薪的合法工作。当然我们知道故事里面Star 他用他的方式，用他的行动来努力帮助他社区同样的人，希望能打破这个贫穷的循环。这也就是这本故事的内容。好，我们今天讲解就到这边结束，谢谢大家聆听，我们下次见。
That's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our story. We hope you had a Merry Christmas, and we're all looking forward to the new year, 2020, in just a couple of days. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.